Hello, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak again after the welcoming words today morning. I have now the problem, after very dedicated, very focused on one topic presentations, to familiarize you with a mosaic of a lot of projects and training courses in a lot of places. So it can be now not more than an overview, because in fact the European Heritage Volunteers Program is a mosaic, and it's always the question how to order a mosaic, how to systematize a network which is based on a lot of contributors, on a lot of stakeholders, on a lot of participants from all over the world, in all over Europe. I tried to give a certain structure, but nevertheless, I cannot in these 25 minutes pack all what would be nice to pack in. That's why, as I said already today morning, we have the exhibition in the another level, so those who might not have time to come tomorrow could still have a look there above. And tomorrow, on the second day of the conference, the European Heritage Volunteers Conference, we will go much deeper, and then you will be much more familiarized with particular projects in particular countries, with particular approaches, and also because we will have 6 sessions with 3 to 5 presenters each. Also, hopefully, if we will not run out of time, have a certain opportunity for discussion and exchange, and some controversies maybe also. Thank you, Giedre, for your ending sentence, because it gives me a nice bridge. Heritage and people. This is the subtitle for our day tomorrow, and it's in fact this what the European Heritage Volunteers Program describes, and you see it here, the first slide. There are heritage sites, half of the slides, and there are people, half on the other half of the sites. And in fact, what the European Heritage Volunteers Program concerns of is very easy, or it seems very easy. You have on one hand, you have heritage sites, which are in need of awareness, in need of rescue sometimes, in need of conservation interventions. And you have, on the other hand, people who want to contribute to this. And then you pack both together and all works. But the reality is that's not so easy, because heritage sites are different, the problems at the heritage sites are different, the countries where we are working are different, the particular national regulations are different, and last but not least, we are working with young people who are coming from different educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, with different aims, different expectations, different personal abilities. So it's in fact, from both sides, a mosaic of heritage sites and a mosaic of people. And this to bring together is not so easy, but it's very interesting. I hope that I'm able to. Yeah. The 3 central points. Do I have to make the microphone near or far, or it's good? Yeah, I'm not trained to this. Yeah. The essential points of the program are 3. The first, volunteering for heritage, as the name European Heritage Volunteers says. The second, and it's not occasional that it's written in the middle, it's the central one, is volunteering for heritage. Is heritage education. Heritage education not understood as the formal heritage education. This we do not provide, because for this there are vocational training schools, there are universities, there are whatever. But the non-formal heritage education, which is provided in addition or beside or as an extension to existing formal heritage education. Last but not least, the third one, which might be from outside not necessarily come immediately in mind, but which is for the young participants important, is the networking of the young heritage professionals. Because, we all working in the heritage field know that we have our networks already working several decades in the field, but people which are coming from the university, just having finished their master, they are knocking at the doors and even sometimes do not know on which doors they have to knock. And the cultural sector is not necessarily an increasing sector. We all know the situation of the public budgets, which probably will not develop in an increasing way. Yeah, and so they have to wait until one of the already existing people in the heritage sector will retire, will die, will quit or whatever. Yeah, but what the advantage which the young people have is the international perspective. Often heritage is understood very regional, very national. Meanwhile, the life reality of people in the 20s or early 30s is often or mostly a European one. And this is the third component what we provide, trying to enable them a networking during the projects and courses cross-border, beyond their own national scope, beyond the university they have been educated in. Yeah, and the 5 pictures representatively show also the fields we are working from, the very practical, handicraft-orientated interventions over research, over the interculture aspect, through the additional educational program. Roland is here, who is on the photo making a guided tour in Vienna. And last but not least, also a certain political expression in order to support the need for activities for young heritage professionals is included. I will not read all these topics, you can read in parallel only the main topics. Formally, European Heritage Volunteers is an NGO registered under German law and tax beneficially as a non-profit organization under German taxes regulations, but working European-wide. European-wide, you will see it later, means really European-wide, as I said already today morning, not only European Union, but really in Europe, in definition, formally set in definition to the Council of Europe, or geographically set until the Ural, until the Bosporus, or historically set Europe as the big cultural space. You have seen the numbers and can read themselves. We have a history of 3 decades, and in the meantime we are carrying out around 25 to 30 projects or courses per year, mostly in the summer and autumn months, which are consisting in a 2 weeks period each, which brings together 10 to 16 young heritage professionals and students, optimally from 10 to 16 different countries. And meanwhile, the projects and the training courses are taking place in Europe, as described before. The origin of the participants goes much beyond that. Already here, we have 5 people representing European Heritage Volunteers. 3 are from Europe, 2 are from other continents, Brazil and Honduras. I'm the only German in the team, and among the participants, mostly, usually 25 until 35% of the people are originating from countries outside the European continent. They do not travel for 2 weeks from Mexico or South Africa or Taiwan to Europe, but these are often people who are studying, or you are working, or you are making their PhD in Europe and using the time they have, their vacations, their whatever break between the semesters, to get to know the heritage of this exotic continent, Europe, from their point of view. As we would do if we would study 4 semesters in Central America, we would probably also not go home in the break, but try to get to know as much as possible from the heritage, culture heritage in that region. And for us, this participation of people who are coming beyond the European continent is enriching, because it brings another additional aspect, another additional view, and it shows us, on one hand, sometimes that the problems are the same in other continents, but on the other hand also that things which we are understanding as normal, as usual, as natural, are not so natural as it may seem for us. Yeah, I think the other things are not needed to underline, but you see on the number that it has a certain critical mass of numbers of courses and projects provided, of sites we are working on, countries we are working, and in the meantime also a quality which speaks for itself. In order to illustrate it better, we have here a map with project locations. You see on this map that indeed there's a lot of project locations beyond the borders of the European Union. And I think there are not so many organizations with Europe in the name who are working almost 50% of their activities outside of the European Union. We had been working a lot in the Caucasus area, or relevantly in the Caucasus area, which is now currently not so easy due to the political situation. We had been working in Russia, in Ukraine, which is now also not possible. We have a very strong focus on the Balkans, almost in every country on the Balkans. We had been working, or we will work next year. But you see also some empty spaces. You see UK. It's a topic for itself. UK, now it's not so easy to work with volunteers due to insurance issues. So it's really, because these nice ideas have always also a pragmatical side. And you see a certain grey area in the northern part of the map. It is as it is, but we have here colleagues from Sweden and from Norway, and maybe we have a beer together today, or a peppermint tea, or whatever you drink in Scandinavia, and we can exchange about the cooperation. In fact, it's really, it's interesting to bring people together from different countries, not only as participants, but also as organizers. For example, we had yesterday, she had to leave for teaching reasons because she's a professor in the university. One person from Malta, which tries since 2021 to make a project, and she sent me after having left Rumšiškės an SMS or WhatsApp message. Next year, for sure, Malta will be on the map. It's also for us very nice to show this diversity of European cultural heritage. No, I still do not understand this. We have two project lines. One is European Heritage training courses, and the other European Heritage volunteers projects. The training courses provide training and deeper education in one particular topic, often related to traditional skills, so very related to the topic of the conference. So deep as it is possible to provide in 2 weeks. That means, in fact, our training courses cannot be more than appetizers. But we have been, Henrik Larsson had been talking about the missing interest, or the lack of young people in the field of conservation. So we deeply believe that such appetizers are necessary, because also it's easy to invest 2 weeks to make a training course in wooden shingles, or make a training course in lime plasters, and after the 2 weeks, either you want to go deeper, or okay, it was a nice experience, but it's not my topic. Lime is boring. And this is, it's nothing against lime. I could also have said whatever. Wooden shingles are boring. But it's the opportunity to get an insight in different techniques, in different materials, and also to test yourself. So, and I will not comment at all, but you see there's a lot of traditional techniques involved in the traditional handicraft part, but also linked to restoration and conservation. The other part, I hope it is now correctly. Yeah, I learned the machinery to use. The other project line are European Heritage Volunteers projects. They are a bit less oriented on the providing of particular skills in a particular field, but more related to the engagement, to the support for a particular heritage sites. Who looks very concentrated will see 2 pictures from Rumšiškės, this one and that one, when we had last year our first volunteer projects here. And you may see that the works here are a bit more simple, let's say, a bit less specialized, but they may give a more comprehensive first insight in a particular heritage type or a particular handicraft. Often in these volunteer projects are also 2 lines, two materials or 2 techniques are combined. So, and now I tried to put a mosaic together to illustrate a bit the wide variety of the training courses and projects. This slide is dedicated to the diversity of sites. That means we try to elaborate the wide scope of very, 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 very important and well-known heritage sites on one hand, and less important, less known, because they're all important, heritage sites on the other hand. You have UNESCO World Heritage Sites as Belvedere in Vienna. Nobody has doubts about the importance of the site. As in Marksburg, the seat of the German Fortress Association. But you have also in the middle left a chapel in Albania, in the middle of a lake in the border area with North Macedonia and Greece, but frescoes from 1369. Obviously, very valuable. You have on the right-hand side Studenica, even a World Heritage Site. Yeah, but I think people who are trained and educated in Western Europe would not, if anybody would ask them, name me 10 World Heritage Sites in Europe, they rarely would name Studenica in the first line, because Serbia is a bit out of the scope. People thinking about France, about Italy, about Germany, about Lithuania, but less about Serbia. Last, we have monasteries or religious sites. We are working on very famous sites as San Millán in Spain, the birthplace of the Spanish language, and a very famous monastery. But we have similar things on the east, and even Volga, I would say even more interesting, because it's on the same place, Islamic site converted into Orthodox site. It's very interesting also these different layers, and this is also what we try to teach the young participants. I was only looking if I'm running out of time or not. Yes, it's nice to work on Belvedere, but it's similar nice to work on sites, on topics which are not visible on the first view, where you have to go deeper and to understand that there is much more beyond than you would understand on the first side, the first view. Casa Batlló. Yeah, it's one of the famous Gaudí sites, clear. Everybody knows, and everybody, I think, knows the facade. But we had not been working on the facade or on the roof or whatever on the tiles, but we had been working in the archive. Surprisingly, despite they had a very, very even prize-winning conservation interventions, they were rushing so quickly that they had no time for proper archiving. And so our task was, 2 years, we did it in 3 projects in total, to work in the archives to, let's say, order a photo archive, to digitalize the photo archive, because we all know that there is a permanent threat that photos could get lost for whatever, fire, electricity, whatever things. And even we found, when doing so, an original photo of the state of the house before the transformation undertaken by Gaudí, which nobody had known before, despite they had it in their box. So, yeah, sometimes the second view opens things which you would not see on the first view. Right-hand side, yeah, it's a national park. Northern Russia is the only national park in Russia which owns heritage sites. They own 27 churches, but their first aim is not to take care for churches, but to take care for the natural landscape. So also you read national park and you would think about water and Greenland and trees and whatever, but not necessarily about churches. Monastery, left-hand side. Yeah, we have our associations when we read monastery, but we would not expect that in a monastery are stored tabernacles from abandoned village churches, which have been collected by the people, by the communities, in order to prevent them to be stolen and to end up in private residential houses. And you would not expect that they had been stored under very critical climatic situations in the basement, in the humid basement. This gave us the opportunity to, it was a 4-year project, 4 years, one after the other, to make conservation projects on these wooden tabernacles. And in result, after the end of the project, there was organized every time an exhibition lasting 2 months, showing the conserved pieces to the wider public. Right hand side, you know the place, you are here, Rumčiškės, you know the nice photos. Yeah, when you think about Rumschichkas, you would not think about the replica of a smithery. But this is just a part of, I think, I have not to explain to people who are here, that it's just a part of the completeness of heritage, of vernacular architecture, that we don't look only at the dvaras or at the church or at the whatever, but also that we have in mind, and this teaching approach we have to the participants, have in mind that the completeness of cultural heritage includes also buildings which may not come in our mind in the first moment. Left-hand side below, antique necropolis. You think you go to a museum and admire. What we were doing there was correcting the damages which had been caused by criminals who were illegally digging, hoping to find gold and whatever, and leaving the site unconserved. Frustrating, but on the other hand, it's reality of heritage, and it's also needed to provide this knowledge to young heritage professionals. Right-hand side. Conservation of Roman mosaics. Sounds nice. Yeah, when you are on a place and you get to know that you have to correct recent interventions dating back 15 years ago or 12 years ago, where they put a whole canyon of concrete in order to conserve the mosaics. So you are also confronted with conservation approaches which may be frustrating, but which are a part of the reality in the heritage life. I'm becoming now a bit more positive. The first two slides show topics which are projects and courses which include more actual themes. We are working since years. Andreas Pahl will tomorrow present it with Weimar Classic Foundation in historic parks and gardens. In the last 10 years, at least, it becomes more and more pressuring the question of the climate change, that trees simply are not able to reach the groundwater. So we are including these sustainable aspects in our projects. Right-hand side, restoration of gravestones, yes, but restoration of gravestones in a soldiers' cemetery from 1870 from the German-French War has in the current year, 2023, also actual connotations. And we do not avoid also these contested aspects of heritage, because all its education process, and education is complex. And so when I'm teaching, one of my favorite termini in teaching is irritations. Let's create irritations, let's create questions. The people are fit enough to find their answers themselves, but we should teach them also to question this, what they had been taught or what they had been believing. Finally, we have 4 projects linked to traditional skills, as it's the topic here of this conference. I will not go into detail. We have tomorrow presentations in the Open Air Museum, the sister brother, whatever Open Air Museum from Germany. We had been working with traditional wooden techniques. We have already for the second time, and we will continue next year, the lime mortar course in the Training Center for Heritage of the Austrian Federal Heritage Authority. We are working already the second year in conservation restoration of frescoes in Brazil, in Portugal, and in historic mortars in Halberstadt. To conclude, I have 2 slides about current projects, that mean projects and courses from the last year, 2023. And you see the pictures yourself. I would only underline one aspect. All these projects and courses stand representatively for a sustainability, for a continuity of the work we are doing. You see this nice castle on the left-hand side, which will be also tackled in one of the presentations tomorrow. It is one training course, but the first course this year is a starting point, or already agreed for a continuous cooperation, hopefully every time, once a year. Lil Straupe, Rodite is there. We started this year with documentation and conceptual development, and next year will follow a training course dedicated to practical conservation issues color surfaces and stucco. The conservation and restoration of traditional garments in Romania is taking place already for the fourth time. In Bulgaria, the project will take place only once, but the cooperation with the organization is going to the year number 5 or 4, and the representatives who are sitting there of the organization have been supporting not only projects in Bulgaria, but also in Georgia, in Spain, in Montenegro. Romshiškes left down. We had now the second year. I think will continue for sure in the future. On the right-hand side, there is a project which might be interesting for you because it's wood, but it's modernist wood architecture. It's the wooden aspect of Bauhaus architecture. There we had a very interesting project this year, translocating a building from 1923. This project is finished because translocated is translocated. You will not dismantle it and translocate it back. But we are cooperating, will be cooperating with the institution also in the next year, and we are thinking just now on which of the modernist wooden houses we will be working. Last but not least, Tematin, Slovakia. Local association, very small association, 5, 6, 7 people, working since 15 years on the ruins of these fortresses in the forest. Every year we make a training course or a project with them where they, understanding that's an endless work, are teaching young people in masonry techniques, because their aim is not to finish the fortress, because you can never finish it, but at least knowing that it will go so long, to have an educational effect. Right-hand side, Albania, we will tomorrow go more in detail. 4 years project, every year with another focus in the same region. This is also sometimes a continuity. You make a work which is finished after 1 year, but then you go to the neighbor village, and then you go to the neighbor village. In Montenegro, the project just finished last Friday. We have now had in 1 year 3 projects. We will continue with 2 projects next year. Right-hand side, Weimar, Andreas Pahl, Weimar, project since 12 years. The biggest continuity we have, similar also as Lora Castle in Germany. And last but not least, a small project in Croatia. I like very because it will also be a good bridge for the community involvement tomorrow. 10,000 inhabitant, small size city, boring. Industrial city since 1870. The industry crashed in 1991. And they have a very active local heritage association, which is not 60 plus, but they are between 25 and 32. And we had been making with them a project in documentation of industrial heritage, later a project in oral history about heritage, and this year with archaeological excavations of the former fortress dating back to the 17th century. All this nice program is only possible due to the network of partners which are sitting wherever in the backstage of this room, and which have a project partners meeting and a conference annually. And as I said already today morning, we are traveling by doing so from country to country. And 4 years ago, we were in Poland, then we were in Germany, then we were in Austria, now we are here. Next year we will be back to Germany because we will link it with the European Heritage Fair, and for 25 we have some ideas where we could go. And this is really, this mosaic would not work centralized. It works only because you have always, everywhere in the country, heritage enthusiasts, and it's unimportant if they are in a small local NGO or if they are working for a big state institution. I think at the end, all which unites us, or all who we are sort of united in these networks, are people who have an engagement, who have an enthusiasm for heritage, and this is also the spirit what makes it so nice. In case that you would be interested more in deep, come back tomorrow and listen to my colleagues, because I was more or less only giving now the introductory speech, and it will be much more down to the ground and much more colorful and much more near to the reality tomorrow. Thank you.